going on, everybody? My name is Jason. I work at All Out Bikes in Four Oaks, North Carolina, and every day for the month of December I'm going to be pulling bikes out from my personal collection. They're going to be collectible bikes, they're going to be rare bikes, or just plain unique. So be sure to subscribe to see what comes next. Today's bike of the day is this 1992, I believe, AlpineStars Chromega DX. This is a very interesting bike. I was going through my bikes next door and I completely forgot about this. And but wait a second, this looks so much like this bike. And this thing looks an awful lot like the AlpineStars. Okay, so this got me thinking, okay? This really does look an awful lot like the Gary Fisher, so I started doing my research, and I found out something very interesting. The reason why this looks so familiar to the Gary Fisher is because there were two former Gary Fisher employees, a Roger and a Bill, that actually left Gary Fisher and they started their own company, and they teamed up with somebody else, and they were going to be doing some MS racing bikes. They did MS Racing did 1 year of bikes whenever they decided that they weren't interested in doing the bikes anymore. So 1 year. So the MS Racing ones are very rare. This is not obviously an MS Racing. So Roger and Bill ended up kind of trying to find somebody else to help them with their now no-name bike company. And they ended up going to Italy, I believe it was Italy, and they actually met up with AlpineStars owner and his daughter, Mr. AlpineStars, whoever his name was, I can't remember, but she actually inquired about what the name of their company was, and they said that it had no name, and she was like, well, why don't you call it AlpineStars? And that was the beginning of their partnership. And yes, it's the same AlpineStars that does motorcycle and ATV protective gear and boots and such. So same company. So they were making this bike from 1990 to 96. So it was full 5 years, not quite 6 years, that they were making these bikes. And the first couple of years they were doing pretty good, but they were prone to frame failure. And in 1992, which is when this one was made, I believe, they actually went with larger tubing, and this one is the larger tubing, so they beefed up the tubing quite a bit. And this one they used True Temper OX tubing, which is a very nice tubing on here. This one is the DX equipped bike. Well, interestingly, it's a Chromega DX here, and it's a very interesting bike. I completely forgot I had it, and I'm going to be doing a future video on kind of redoing this bike because unfortunately, if you'll notice right here, the derailleur hanger is really bent, and somebody ended up pulling the derailleur back off and then screwing it in where the derailleur is now straight. So they ended up cross-threading the threads in this frame. Instead of taking it to a bike shop and paying $15–20 to have the frame repaired, they ended up messing up the frame further by just screwing this derailleur in improperly. And it looks like the same person ended up using a wood screw to put or keep this derailleur put together. So I probably will be doing a future video on this bike. It does have some differences to this. The Gary Fisher has a pressed-in sealed bearing bottom bracket, whereas this is using the industry standard thread-in bottom bracket on here. This is a little bit newer than the Gary Fisher. This is at least a year newer than the Gary Fisher. This one's a 92. I believe the Gary Fisher is a 91. I could be wrong on that. The interesting thing is this is using a oversized handlebar that looks almost like a current 31.8, and this is from like 1992. But whenever you measure it, it comes out to be a 28.6 stem length, or excuse me, stem clamp diameter. It's using an 1.25 inch headset, just like the Gary Fisher. Just all in all, it's an interesting bit of history. It's virtually identical. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I know I enjoyed making it because I learned something today. I did find it fascinating that the reason why this looks so much like the Gary Fisher that I did in a previous video, that it was actually designed by former Gary Fisher employees. So be sure to leave me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to tell your friends. Check out some of the other videos on the corner of the screen. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow for tomorrow's Bike of the Day. Thanks.